folks. What is going on? Justin Masson here with Nintendo Dads. And sure, look it. I was asked, I wasn't able to be on the show this last week, the podcast. And yesterday was a Nintendo Direct, sort of maybe the last one of the Nintendo Switch OG life. And so people asked me to kind of like, hey, can you tell us what are your thoughts? And so, sure, I am happy to tell folks my thoughts. I'm grabbing up the Direct run of show. So here's my thoughts. I'll give you sort of an analogy for how I sort of felt about it. And so, full transparency, I was in Boston this week, and I was literally in the airport when this was going live. I was able to catch it on my phone there, and then I was in transit for much of the rest of the day. So I wasn't able to jump on live stream and any of that, right? And none of the guys were, to be honest. This is sort of the way, and it was interesting, right? 30 minutes. We are less than a week away from the Switch 2. A lot of rumors cycling around it, like what's there going to be. This could be the last one. This is the end of sort of an era. So to say, like, wow, this could be pretty incredible. And I would say it felt to me a little lackluster. And the best way that I can describe it is, when all of a sudden, you're looking at your watch and all of a sudden it's dinner time and you're like, oh shoot, I need to make dinner. But I have no plans for dinner. I don't really have a strategy or a plan. I'm just going to see what I have. And so you kind of like open up the fridge and you look around the fridge at like some leftovers, maybe from a couple days ago, maybe a half-eaten sandwich, maybe some fruit or veg that's sort of getting like kind of on the border of like, oh, if I don't eat it today, it's probably going to have to be thrown out tomorrow. And you sort of like hodgepodge together a meal that's not really great, but you used your stuff and your ingredients and you've eaten, your body's taken in nutrients, but it wasn't really enjoyable. It was just a thing, a meal that you did. All of that setup is sort of, to me, the sort of the same energy that we got a little bit from this Direct. And again, maybe I was just coming at it. Maybe I was having an off day. I did see some people online who were like, this is an amazing Direct. This is awesome. Great. And let me be very clear. I do believe there were some definite highlights, some really interesting sort of strategic decisions that were made. But it felt very hodgepodgey, right? And even when I think of like, you're 4 or 5 clips in or games in, and then you're going to show Metroid Prime, right? Good. Okay. That felt like that should have been near the top of the show, right? Now, Dragon Quest was big too, but like Metroid Prime is really big. Still not to have a release date. Then we have like a really fairly long amount of time with Pokemon. We just had Pokemon Day a month ago. Don't necessarily know if it needed to be slotted in there, but okay, sure. Then we're talking about the virtual cards, right? Which was really cool, like was important. And I do think as a parent, that's really, really good, right? But it was like, oh, okay, got it. Okay, interesting, cool, not a problem. Then we move into like, we've got Patapon, and then we've got Hot Shot Golf, which are interesting because those are PlayStation exclusive games that have now come over to the Nintendo Switch. That's just interesting, right? No, that's not the first time, but that's okay. We're starting to see more decisions or more sharing from PlayStation. Now they're being done by Bandai Namco, but still very interesting, right? Then we're like, okay, we've got one last game to talk about. You're like, what do you got? It's got to be something big. Tamagotchi Life or whatever, right? Was it Tamagotchi Life? No, it was. Oh, I got to take a look at it. What was it? I'm going through the Direct. Yeah, Tamagotchi Life. Tamagotchi. Living the dream. Whatever. All right. Okay, cool. Like definitely a very specific audience for that. Probably a lot of Venn diagram overlap with your Animal Crossing folks. But also like that game and Rhythm Heaven, both 2026 games. Nintendo doesn't typically like weigh it like 2026 as a reminder, even if it's January 1st, is at a minimum 9 months away. Like Nintendo doesn't typically take that long of a shot on something, which I would kind of say is sort of I'm going to say it. Don't hate me. C to D tier Nintendo topics or games. Like, we don't typically, it's not a Mario. It's not a Zelda, right? It's not an Animal Crossing. It's not Mario Kart. Like, this is sort of like, what do we got at the back of the fridge that we have not eaten? And we're going to talk about it in 2026. Now, what it does do, interestingly enough, because we do have to remember, and Nintendo looks at this in two separate ways. This is a Nintendo Direct for the current Switch. So these games are coming to the current Nintendo Switch. Yes, they're cross-compatible, right? But they are the current Nintendo Switch. So we want to show you, all 150 million individuals who have a Nintendo Switch, that we are still supporting you moving forward. And here, let me show you. In 2026, that's a big gap, right? The last game has been Xenoblade Chronicles X, not Definitive Edition. What is it? Xenoblade Chronicles, Xenoblade, what? Oh my gosh. If our Nintendo rep is watching, he's gonna be so angry, man. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, there it is. They provided us a copy, and I totally forgot blanked on the name of it. Nonetheless, I digress. Okay, 2026. Now, I would argue Nintendo would also be saying, well, hold on a second. Metroid Prime 4 is coming 2025, and that is a Nintendo Switch 1 game. We know that for sure. We know it's coming to that console because we guaranteed that, and we showed Pokemon ZA. We know that is also for sure coming to the Nintendo Switch. So that's great, right? But Pokemon is going to be November. Metroid, we don't have a date for. We'll see. But really, like, big titles for Nintendo, big first-party titles, it's a desert right now. Now, could the Switch 2 come in and fill in some of the gap? Yes, but the games that Switch 2 are going to be talking about are Switch 2 exclusive games. Exclusive games, plus potentially we may get some dates of games that are Switch 1s that are also playable on Switch 2. I'm looking at you, Metroid Prime 4. So sort of just like this weird smattering, and like most of the games announced in the Direct are July or summer or, again, 2026. So if you are a current Switch player, there's this weird kind of gap. April's real quiet, May's real quiet, June's real quiet. Again, we know the Switch 2 is coming, but we also have to recognize that there's 150 million folks with install base of games and a console that they want something to play on. So that's interesting. I think that's really interesting, actually. I also think with the fact that where Tamagotchi Life is and all that stuff, I think is an indicator that you are not going to see an Animal Crossing game on the Switch in the first 2 years. I don't think you're going to see it in 2025. I don't think you're going to see it in 2026. You may see it in 2027. I think that demographic, right, the folks you're targeting with a game like that probably has a pretty strong Venn diagram overlap. So I think it's a good indication that Animal Crossing is probably several years away for whatever the newest one is. And then we end up finishing off with, by the way, we now have a new mobile app called Nintendo Today, which is essentially us saying we're controlling our own messaging. We're getting away from Twitter. And if you want direct information from us, go here. Here's a dedicated app, which, by the way, totally I think is cool, right? Like, yeah, I think that's a great opportunity for them to continue to bring in that messaging there. So it felt very hodgepodge. It felt very smattered together. I don't know if for some of this was actual like contractual obligations, right? Like with a developer or a publisher that, yeah, you will be in a Nintendo Direct and then we'll get it out before the Nintendo Switch 2, a part of agreement that we put together a while ago. So it felt odd. Now, now that's not to say, by the way, I don't think that there were great games shown. Just sort of like, again, felt like a smattering. And I will call out a couple games that definitely stood out to me. Metroid Prime 4, of course. Now, the biggest thing I heard Marty on the show talk about it today was that, that's got to be captured on the Switch too. I would say the following. If it was captured on the Switch 2, they probably legally actually have to say that on the bottom, like in the video, captured on the Switch 2, because the fact that could actually be seen as deceiving your potential customers. So I do believe, and I know Tim was like, no, it definitely is. I believe Tim's right. I believe that footage that you saw was captured on the Switch 1. This is a Direct that was specifically aimed at Switch, the OG Switch games coming to the Nintendo Switch, right? The current one, not the future one. So I really believe that was and again, they've had a lot of time to cook with this console, and they have and Nintendo knows the magic to be able to squeeze all the little pieces out of it to make it a banger. So I'm pretty sure it's Switch One capture. And again, I may end up being wrong in the end, but if they don't, like that could actually really put them in hot water in regards to like actual like deception, and it could actually be a lawsuit if they don't do it properly. So pretty sure Switch One. But I also believe like playing on Switch 2 is going to look awesome. What else on here that caught my attention? Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Yes, that looked awesome, right? And again, same team that did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you're like 100% do it. That looks amazing. I'm all in. Holiday 2025. What are you doing? Like, and again, I don't make games, right? But like, that is a way out there. Call your shot. Like that's too far. Too far. Rain that one. That should have been like in a September direct to talk about it or something. Like it just felt weird. And maybe this was, and again, maybe this is a contractual agreement of like, we're actually going to move to the Nintendo Today platform. But when we signed up with you, we told you you'd be in a Nintendo direct that we do. And if we use Marty's idea that they aren't going to do Nintendo Directs anymore, and that it's all basically going to come into the Nintendo Today platform, and maybe there's videos that are embedded there, and they're like literally off of YouTube, and they're out of Twitter and all the socials, which I doubt that's the case. But there may have been a contract that was like, we will show you in a Nintendo Direct. And P.S., we're changing how we do directs, right? Because everybody's doing it. Everybody steals it. It was special. When it originally came out, it was special and unique. So it was valuable. And now everybody has their own, right? Direct or showcase or whatever you want to call it, that now it kind of feels like it's lost some of it. So Nintendo's pivoting into a different channel, which I think is smart. Yeah, Marvel Cosmic Invasions. Still scrolling through here. What else is in there? Monument Valley. Man, that was interesting. Rhythm Heaven, no interest. The virtual game card swapping, I think is cool. I think it's, and again, some people are like, I don't fully understand why this is valuable. If you are a parent and you have multiple Switches and multiple folks in, or even not even a parent, I should say, maybe you have a partner who has a spouse. If you have a partner who has a spouse, that's a different problem. If you have a partner or a spouse, right, and you have Switches, and maybe you want to you want to share games a little bit more effectively, this is actually a really cool feature. And it's much easier. It feels like it's at least much easier as opposed to like I should be logged on to your Switch in the profiles, and you should be logged onto mine, and then we can let's swap back and forth the games and download them. So it feels like they were actually solving for a problem that for some people isn't a problem. Like if you're just a person on your own who has a Switch and doesn't have to share anyone, you're like, I don't understand. But still valuable that you could share if you wanted to. Again, if people are in your network. But so I thought this was actually really cool. I actually was really hoping this was if you had a physical card, you all of a sudden now got a digital version of it. It wasn't, but that's fair. I get it. That is the thing. I get it. What else is on here? I thought the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake, that looks good. I actually have, again, Nintendo provided us the Dragon Quest 3 code, and it's sitting on my Switch, and I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I am interested in playing it, so I gotta get to that. What else is on here? Again, Patapon 1 and 2 replay. I'm not super interested, but I'm just interested from a business perspective. That and everybody's golf hotshot. Again, traditionally being PlayStation games, now coming to the Nintendo Switch from Sony. That's, and again, sort of like why Xbox is putting their games on Switch as well. You got 150 million people install base. You want to go where the people are, right? And so totally makes sense. I think we'll be interested to see what else happens. Do I ever think you're going to see like The Last of Us on PlayStation or on Switch? No. But what are other potential games that you might see that are part of sort of PlayStation's pantheon or genre of games that they have in their catalog that they could actually feel comfortable putting over onto the Nintendo Switch? I don't know. It could be very, very interesting. Witchbrook does look good. I think it's from the team who are the publisher behind Stardew Valley as well. So I've heard a lot of really good things about that one. So yeah, my wife might actually like that one more than anything else, if I'm being honest. Scrolling through. Shadow Labyrinth. This is that Pac-Man one and was tied to the Amazon Prime show. The Amazon Prime show was really cool. I don't really know if I'm vibing with the game, but I'm not unhappy about that. I'll try it. But that's, again, July 18th. The Eternal Life of Goldman. That was really cool. And that was a holiday, 2025. So way out there calling your shot. And then other ones that were sort of on the highlight reel that were coming out soon. King of Meat, I don't even remember seeing that, but apparently that was shown off. High on Life, that was brought in. I'm not super interested in it, but it could be, could be a bit of fun. That's from Rick and Morty creator. So it was just a very odd schmattering, is what the word I would use in regards to the Nintendo Direct. But I think it began to take some pieces off the table a little bit and prepare us for the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think that's where, we're less than a week away. It'll be interesting. And what is our Nintendo Directs going to occur in the future? What do they look like? This is a Nintendo Direct, including information for Switch? Like, do we call it Switch 1 and Switch 2? Like, technically, now that there's a 2, there has to be a 1. So, or do we just call, and when we see news, if we do a Direct with this way, will it say like Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, or they'll say something along the lines of, now we're going to talk about games exclusively coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 family of systems, blah blah blah, right? And here you go. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of balance that communication between the two. Like, do you actually have separate directs, Nintendo Switch 1 games, Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, or do you just have a combined Direct with everything in it? It'll be interesting to see how they sort of navigate, right? They're navigating a time where they have successful systems both in play. Now I guess, I mean, I'm overly thinking this, but if we go back to when the Nintendo Switch came across, you would have like, here games coming to the Nintendo 3DS, and here games are coming to the Nintendo Switch. And they were able to navigate that quite well. I think when it's both the Switch and the Switch 2, those naming conventions are similar. And you'll want to identify which games are exclusive, right, to the Switch 2. Again, because there are some similarities there also. But I do think, I like the fact that like the virtual cards is an indication that that's going to be how they move into the Switch 2 generation and move that idea forward too. So, yeah, folks, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the Nintendo Direct? How hyped are you for next week's? What games are you also the most excited for? So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.